and welcome back. Our first conversation this morning is all about tackling obesity in Belize. We're joined by representatives from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. In studio with us this morning is technical advisor, nutritionist Robin Daly. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And she is joined by Dr. Golda Mejia. She's the primary health care coordinator at the Central Health Region. Ladies, good morning once again. I want to start off with one question, right? Obesity versus overweight, because I think people are still trying to understand which one is what and what are the effects of it or what have you. I think that's a legitimate place for us to begin our conversation with. Can we get a definition and a distinction between the two things?
Okay, so overweight and obesity is an extra accumulation of unnecessary fat or abnormal fat. You become overweight before you become obesity. Normally it's measured in different ways, but BMI, body mass index, is a very common way to measure obesity. You have things like waist circumference, body fat percentage that you would use with a body fat scale. So those are some ways to measure it, but overweight is characterized commonly by the BMI of 25 to 30, and then obesity is BMI 30 to 35. Then you have extreme or category 1, obesity category 2. So most of the times we would put people at risk being overweight, and then obesity is really when you're at that chronic stage.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add that when it comes to obesity, we're now at that stage where it influences your health more. So we're looking at more diseases that we have to look out for, heart-related diseases. We're looking at hormone-related influence. So those now are in the category where we have to be very, very cautious, and it's not anymore about the preventatives, but now it's about how do we manage and get back to being healthy.
I love that you pointed that out, Doc, because I've read a couple articles, watched a couple interviews where obesity or being obese was identified as a disease on its own. And I'd love for us to perhaps kind of look at that and analyze that term and on its own there, because for me, looking at obesity as a disease almost sort of takes away the responsibility that we would have had to not get to that point. Could you clarify that?
Okay, so when it comes to obesity being a disease, we're looking at the first stage. Why did we reach here?
Okay.
So you have genetics. Sometimes we are predisposed already, and genetics is a part of being predisposed. You also have social factors. So where you live, your environment, the socioeconomic cost. So there's a lot that adds to it being a disease. So by the time you start looking at your environment, the biology of it, maybe the aging, the stage that you're in, are you in menopause, were you recently pregnant? So now it reaches a stage where you are coming out of overweight and into obesity, chronic, you have the different levels. So you have to now look at, hey, this is not something that it can be easily managed by just healthy practices or preventatives. We're now at a stage where it's really affecting organs, and I'm surrounded by factors that I cannot control.
I'd love to look at some of those factors that you identified, because very often you'd hear people say, my family, lata we just big, right? You also hear I big boned. I'd love to debunk some of those if they're untrue, and perhaps place some facts on these common things that you'd hear people say. And guys, I'm also inviting you guys to comment in as well. What are your thoughts on obesity? Do you think that we have some responsibility for leading to that stage in our health? Or do you believe that some people really do have these things that are uncontrollable that leads to it? Let's begin with genetics. If I have a family line that are naturally bigger people, is that inevitable for me? Can't control it. I just want to be big.
I wouldn't say that the big bone is really a thing to consider. We have to also consider like your your FMO genes.
What is that, FMO
It's
gene?
like the appetite control and looking at what other genes has constituted to you being that person that relatively eats more, or you want more foods that will continue to contribute to being obese or overweight. So that is one of the first things we have to look at. What is your main composition, and what environmental factors are related to all of this? We also look at environments like your work setting. Is it a sedentary job? Do you now get up ever so often and maybe do little office-related movements? Like, for example, you just use the chair and you do little steps and movement with just the lower body. So there are different things that we have to look at when it comes to that. And so going back to genes, we cannot just state that, oh, because I'm big boned, then my child will be big boned. It may be a thing to consider, but your child does not have to, because maybe your child now is growing up in an environment where you move more, you have better options for food, and that is also a thing. And now, yes, you may be big boned, but it doesn't mean that you will be obese. It doesn't mean that you will be overweight. So we cannot just say, oh, like it's like you're now taking that on and trying to live in that family history.
Yeah.
Versus saying, you know what, I am me, I am different, and I can do better. Because most of the people that may want to feel that way may not be doing anything to change it.
I'm laughing to myself the entire time, Doc, because I'm thinking, right? A lot of times, well, if you look at the present situation, right? Most of us have vehicles, we don't really walk to work. So we drive from home to work, and we have a job in an office that has us seated the entire 8 hours, right? Then during lunch, we go and have a big meal and come back and sit down again. Then we drive home after work. So there really isn't much time being invested in actually working out, or even choosing the right meals that align with your metabolic rate and so on, right?
Correct.
And then we wonder why we gain weight. And I use myself as an example. There was a point in time where I did my 10,000 steps and I was super religious to that. And then now I have a job that's sedentary. And I'm praying to myself that I don't fall into a situation where that becomes the end all be all, right? Because I look at other people who lose control of that situation, and then they end up where they don't want to be, right? But I think a lot of it starts with where the mind is, right?
Correct.
If you tell yourself, look, I got to get up today and make something happen, then perhaps that's a starting point.
I want to get really quickly in on environment, though, and I'll bring you in now, Robin, on that.
Look like Robin, want to jump in? Just
I wanted to jump in
Okay,
because
so let's get you
Robin.
in.
you made a very important point with what you're saying about workplace and your job. And that ties in directly with what the Ministry of Health is pushing with workplace wellness support. And we are in the process of finalizing our workplace wellness policy. And this is something that's going to be rolled out to many different workplaces, private and government workplaces, because that point you made, the environment, and it ties into what Dr. Mahia was saying, your environment plays a very big role with how you are able to manage disease, and only obesity. So having workplace activities, having workplace support, and it ties as well with schools, looking at our Healthy Habits program as well. So the environment is critical for us to look at how can we better manage obesity and other NCDs or other diseases. What can we do together as a team within the workplace? And that's where we have some of our activities and comments that we would like to share for people to consider within, and it could be any work setting.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to quickly, can we please promote free work gym membership? But I want to go to the environment thing that you spoke of, Isani, as well, because I believe that certain cultures could even be looked at as the environment as well.
Yes.
When we think of the Caribbean versus maybe the United States and the type of eating habits, or Europe even, and the types of food that you would eat, it's very different. And so as a nutritionist, Robin, how do you find yourself explaining to people you know, that regardless of this being a part of our culture, when you get that rich plate of rice and beans for Sunday dinner or everyday lunch, you know, that's not necessarily aligned with a healthy, proportionate eating and well-balanced meal, where we have carb-rich meals as the main central point of the plate. You want coleslaw on the side, which is a very small portion of fiber, and then your meat, if you're lucky, if you're a cook lady, love you'll get 2 pieces of meat or one. So the protein is smaller as well. You have high fats. How do you go about trying to break cultural styles of eating?
It is very challenging, but what we encourage is, you made up a point about portion. That is very, very important, because people will not, from my experience, people will not stop eating what they love. People will not stop eating their culture food unless they're within life and death, but rarely they would stop. Even at that point, they say, you know what, I still want it. I crave it. And it's something that you've been growing up on. So we encourage portion, and we encourage maybe healthier ways to make some of your foods that you like. So even though Fridays come, you might feel like, okay, I want some fried food, I want something unhealthy. You don't have to have an excessive amount of it. We encourage portions, we encourage small amounts, and we encourage discretion as well. So if you're having, let's say you're having fried chicken, that's what you love to have on Fridays, you don't need to have 5 pieces of chicken, a whole amount of fries.
Or maybe
you don't
do
need to
air
wash
fried
that
chicken.
down. Exactly, so you could do air fry, or you could even do less, and you say, okay, I won't have fries, I'll have maybe coleslaw instead of the fries, and I won't have that big amount of Coke, I'll have half cup. Or if you're having drinks.
I laugh again, Robin, because in life you have to be practical. I was telling her in a separate conversation earlier.
Oh gosh.
You don't cut off, you cut down.
Yes.
Right.
Because cutting off may not necessarily be practical or sustainable. So you have to just kind of reduce your portions as you go along, and then you see results based on the reduction.
Right.
Now, but I mean, it's hard to break cultural habits too, though. You know, when that engraved in you know, your soul, the crave the rice and beans. Your soul, the crave
that
fire hot. You know, it's the time of the year when people
coconut oil
will be gathered around, and then there are
And
certain
gravy.
there are certain ideas that, you know, as long as I coconut oil dinner, if it cook with olive oil, it's healthy now. You know, how do you talk to people and explain things like that?
It is very tricky, because we all, like you said, grew up in the Caribbean, and that is what we know. But we also have to take a reality check on the healthy side of it, not just the environmental and cultural side. When I say that, I'm talking about, are we really informing them the right way? Are we communicating effectively to our patients, our families, our clients regarding nutrition? Are we also just saying, don't drink sugary drinks, but are we saying what the options are? And trying to bring the reality and the options into one. Basically saying, I'm not telling you to remove the rice and beans, but you're putting rice and beans, stuffings, potato salad, and that is all the starch, the carbs, right?
So it defeats, okay, just let me jump in here quickly, Doc. So if we're telling each other or our kids, slow down on the sugary drinks, right? But then they're consuming all of these starchy foods and stuff like that. Isn't that like sheep and monkey and black dog, so to speak?
Okay, so you can't tell them about the food and not the drink. So you have to also give options for both, and you have to find ways to share this, to bring maybe great demonstrations of what exists, because sometimes people don't know. And if you tell them about going cold turkey, that doesn't help. So you have to work with people, and you have to work with the options. And some people don't have the money, but it doesn't mean that you can't find a big bunch of color loaf for $2 at
Yeah.
the market, and it can give you X amount of servings. That's not one serving.
Yeah, there's a huge
Yeah.
misconception that eating healthy requires a big budget.
Right.
But I want to get, I want to move things along and go into maybe some data if you have it. When we're talking obesity and we're looking at Belize specifically, are we an obese nation? Are we overweight? What is it looking like for us?
Yes, we are. Go
We,
ahead, Robin.
we are overweight, and it's actually, I'm sharing some statistics with you. It's very alarming because we're seeing it now with our children.
Wow.
And because we're seeing it in children, we realize that we have to start taking more proactive decisions with guiding our children, having more options in schools that can help to promote good nutrition, that can help to reduce obesity. And for statistics, we're looking at, this is from our health information system, 80,800 persons obese, 2025 data. Overweight is
80,000?
obese, so that's past
Out of
overweight.
400,000. So that gives you a clear picture.
Yes, how serious the situation
Yeah.
is. We have 56,000 persons, 56,700 overweight. So
Oh
when we
my
add
gosh.
those two together, let's say 56 and 80, we're looking at over 30,000 people in our
It's near
population
half of the
overweight.
population. Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, that's
Overweight.
insane.
And then the mix data, the multiple indicator cluster survey that's from UNICEF and SIB shows 27.8% of our children 5 to 9 is overweight. So when we look at that, we're seeing school-age children being overweight. We have our adult population. So we need to have more of these conversations. We need to take more proactive decisions. And it's a work in progress, like Doc mentioned, you know, working with people, pointing out the healthy options, consistent reinforcement, having the conversation, having the activities, and starting early.
But here's the thing, Robin. It wasn't always like that. Because growing up, a lot of kids were active. They were out on the football field, they were out playing chase, kiss catch, whatever they're into, right? They were out and about. Now we have kids who are on tablets and devices the entire time. So when they're in school, they're seated doing their work. Out of school, they go front of the PlayStation 5 or they go front of the tablet, and that replaces what would have been the activities that they would be doing outdoors, for instance, right? That to me is looking at how things have changed over time, and perhaps those are contributing factors as to why, aside from just eating unhealthy, why we have that issue to deal with now.
You're very right, and that's why we, as a ministry and also with our partners that we work closely with, we have to look at enforcing mechanisms, having systems in place that can help to support this cause. So you mentioned physical activity one,
Yeah.
having more sporting activities, having more competition for young people. Those things are very important. Having within the Healthy Habits program, we have things like water days, we have fruit days. So those small little gestures make up some of the incentives and some of the initiatives that we want to do to encourage that healthy lifestyle with our young people and also within the workplace.
Yeah.
So we have to start somewhere. We have to start looking at what can we do for ourselves to help to minimize the high levels of obesity in the country. And there are so many other aspects to look at as well, because we have to look at that mental aspect that affects people that are obese, that stigma that goes along with it, that prevents people from seeking help than going to address the problem. They kind of like just pull away. So there are so many aspects to consider. Children get teased.
Yeah.
So there are many things to look at when we're looking at this overweight obesity syndrome.
I think there's a lot of people that think when it comes to children being heavier, that it's something that they grow out of. You know, as they grow taller, they'll get smaller. Is that a thing? Does that actually take place, or is that a misconception as well?
It is a misconception, and just going back to why that child reached there. Parents are contributing to this because we are having that television and that tablet and that phone as a babysitter. So we're not interacting with the child, and the child is learning all the great things or not so great things on the gadgets. And then we are okay because we too are on the gadgets and we are getting all the information, all the latest tea. And at the end of the day, we're just sitting around.
Yeah.
Nobody's moving. Nobody is getting on board with what can I do, what can we do as a family differently. And so that is something. And then what is the feeding like? The snacks.
Yeah.
Are your snacks fruits? Are your snacks any veggie with a type of veggie related dip or a hummus? What is that child snacking on? Already not doing much activity because they're sitting around being on that gadget. And then what does a snack look like?
Some parents will say, Miss, my picnic no eat vegetable. I was sent out with that and I'll come back with that. But I want to look at solutions as we wind down the conversation. So we spoke of what the data is looking like, and as you heard, it is very alarming. We also spoke about some of the challenges, misconceptions that people have about how you get obese or how you get overweight. Now, let's take the conversation to the person who is currently obese and overweight, both adult and child. What are practical things that we can do to slowly get ourselves out of that category and reduce the statistics that we have here in Belize?
Okay, going back to my point on us or parents being contributors, we can now move away from the sugary drinks to the more healthier drinks. So looking at more natural juices, looking at less sugary content within all of these different products that you're consuming. If you start looking at the nutrition facts and all of these bottles that you're consuming, you're really consuming a lot of sugary stuff. And then when we look at also water, are we drinking water? Some people don't like
to drink water.
But little tip here, you can do infused water.
Okay.
And you can put a slice of lemon, a slice of cucumber, a slice of pineapple, watermelon, whatever you prefer and you like to taste. It doesn't really mean that now this is lime water. It just gives you an infused option. And you can find ways to let it be something that you like.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that healthy does not mean you will be eating or consuming things that you don't like because, oh, I'm now sick. No, you can find the things that you like and you can start finding ways to add these things that you like, but healthier options. So that's the drink. Now, when it comes to the food, we can start looking at the portions. So while, yes, you'll do your turkey dinner with all the carbs, you can do less of each of those carbs. And now you're not saying that I'm not doing turkey dinner. I'm just doing less.
But what if you're still hungry after you did the less? What do you do?
Drink some water.
I mean, let's be real. That's why people eat more, because they're hungry.
True. But also, we have to look at healthy snacks at different times because we also want to now look at metabolic rates.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be just introducing feeding. When do you allow the body to rest? So it's also a little bit of discipline, and it sounds harsh, but you have to do what works for you. So while I may be able to wait 3 hours before I feed myself again, somebody else might be able to wait only 1 hour, 2 hours, and it might sound crazy when we start comparing, but it's not even about comparing. It's about knowing what fits you, what is better for you. And then you go along with that education and counseling that helps for you.
We have a comment from a viewer here online saying, children tend to eat more when distracted with gadgets. So it's up to the parents providing the right food or snacks and get them used to eating healthy from early.
Right. That is a great comment, and I like that because it also helps for us to realize that, yes, parents can help, but we have to also note, okay, yes, I already started introducing my child to all of this unhealthy stuff, but now I will not bring all the soft drinks, I will bring some juice, and eventually you don't even realize, and sometimes these children, they do what they really want when they're ready. And if we educate them well, and we, just like how they're smart enough now at age 3, and you know, everybody looked well on March 1st with stimulation, and you're hearing, oh, they know this, they know that. So in the same way that they can know all of these things, we can start teaching them healthier ways to eat and show them what that leads to. And little by little, one step at a time, one day at a time, we can reach a certain point. And while we may not be able to change 136,000 in our population, who knows? It may go down by 1,000, by 2,000, and it's just one step closer to being a healthier Belize.
Robin, any final thoughts from you in terms of what the commitment has been looking like from the ministry and even some advice nutrition-wise?
I just want to highlight that today is World Obesity Day, and our theme actually speaks to 8 billion reasons, because the statistics are showing about 8 billion people are affected by obesity. So 8 billion reasons to act on obesity. So my message would be taking proactive steps. As a workplace, as a community, it could be church groups, gatherings, schools. What can we do to act on obesity? Even if it's a small step. And we spoke just now about children. So we're on gadgets, we're playing. When do we go outside? Do we have a pet? Do we take that pet for a walk? How do we get physical activity integrated into our daily lives? It goes a long way with managing our health overall. So what can we do within our environment, in our groups? We are exposed to many unhealthy foods, and in many times these foods cost less than the healthier options. You know, junk food is readily available all over. But how often do we have to resort to that? If you do have $1 to spend, you have a decision to make. Am I going to eat a banana and orange, or am I going to buy a meat pie with that? You know, so it's a decision. So we have to be looking at how can you as a person take some responsibility? How can our workplaces, our environments, as a collective group, take responsibility to look at ways that we can make physical activity a part of our daily lives, healthy eating a part of our daily lives. The ministry is pushing a lot for workplace wellness. So we do go to we're getting requests to go to many different workplaces to do height and weight, BMI, body fat, blood pressure, blood sugar. But not only doing the assessment. When we finish, we encourage them to have workplace support activities for staff. So even if it's things like Fruit Fridays, even if it's Healthy Potluck Fridays, or maybe we can wear our tennis shoes to work and have physical activity challenges. We're doing that at the headquarters in Belmopan, and we're spreading that to the other regions as well. Wearing our tennis shoes 2-3 times a week.
You could have 10K step challenge.
Exactly. Right. That's what we're doing as well. Steps challenge, little tokens, you know, ensuring when we have our lunches, we're making sure healthy options are there. So there are many small steps we can start to take collectively to address the problem. It won't be fixed overnight, but we can start having that conversation, start looking at it as a team, and start making these proactive decisions.
I love that. Excellent. I'm so inspired. I can't wait to go down and talk to my colleagues about what we could be doing over here. But
please share your ideas with us when you're.
But ladies, we are out of time. This has been a wonderful conversation. It has also been an alarming conversation as well when it came to the data that you provided. But I'm hoping that we are inspired to take the steps that are necessary to live a more healthier life, to step outside of that obesity target, and of course continue the healthiest that we can. We wish you guys all the best.
Thank you for having us.
Alrighty, well, we move things along. We are going to take our next break, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we have some career opportunities at Quality Poultry.